What's up guys, and welcome to my Havoc Demon Hunter DPS guide for WoW patch 7.2.5. Now in this video, I'm going to briefly go over some stat priorities and what kind of gear you should be looking for, and then I'm going to briefly touch on the artifact trait path that you should get if you're just starting out a Demon Hunter, and then I'm also going to go into the talents and the different builds you can run and what they're good for and the rotations and stuff like that. So a lot of this is what I've researched, and then some of it is just my own personal opinion, my own personal preference. So some of the information might vary from person to person, but with that being said, let's just jump right into this. I'm going to start with the stats first. So previously, crit and mastery used to be our two most valuable stats, with haste and versatility being close behind. But now Chaos Blades actually got a slight, I don't know if you would say a nerf, but Chaos Blades got changed and it no longer scales with mastery. So now critical strike and haste are actually our most valuable stats, with then versatility being third and then mastery being fourth. So those are the stats right there. I'm still trying to get less mastery gear and more crit haste gear now that 7.2.5 came out, but as you can see, I have fairly decent item level. I have 896. So I have done like raids and mythic pluses and stuff like that, so a lot of the information I'll be giving you is from my own personal experience. But now, with that being said, let's move on to the artifact traits. So you're going to start off getting Fury of the Illidari, which is your active ability, your artifact ability. And then when you want to put your artifact points, when you want to get your traits, you want to start with Warglaives of Chaos, obviously. But then you actually want to go to Sharpened Glaives, and then you want to come back around to Balanced Blades, Unleash Demons, Demon Speed, Illidari Knowledge, and then up here to Rage of the Illidari. So basically you want to go one this way and then loop back around and get this Golden Dragon trait. And then after, when you're working towards your second Golden Dragon, you want to come back to where Sharpened Glaives is, and you want to go up. You want to go Critical Chaos, Chaos Vision, Anguish of the Deceiver, and that's going to be your second Golden Dragon trait. And then you're going to go Demon Rage, Contained Fury, and then once this whole side is done, then you're going to go Feast on the Souls, Deceiver's Fury, Inner Demons. You're going to get your final Golden Dragon trait, and then you're going to get Overwhelming Power last. Alright, so now we're going to go into the talents. I'm going to go over the talents first, and then I'm going to go into like each different build. So at level 99 we have Fell Mastery, which increases the damage of Fell Rush, and it also causes it to grant Fury when it hits at least one target. And then you also have Fell Blade, which is basically like a charge. You dash towards the enemy, you generate some Fury, and you do some damage. It does a pretty decent amount of damage. And then lastly you have Blind Fury, which slightly extends the duration of I-Beam and causes it to generate a lot of Fury. Basically, it'll fill up your Rage bar completely when you use it. So the level 99 tier is like, basically it's the Fury generation tier. And then next we have level 100, you have Prepared, which reduces the cooldown of Vengeful Retreat by 10 seconds and causes it to generate 100 Fury over 10 seconds if you hit an enemy with it. Personally, I don't really like this talent. It's more so for like the movement heavy build, which I don't like, I never use, which I think that died down a lot since the Demon Hunter first release. But next we have Demon Blades, which Demon Blades, it replaces your Demon's Bite, which is your primary builder, and it gives you a passive ability that causes your auto attacks to have a 60% chance to deal shadow damage and generate Fury. So you can think about it like how when a warrior hits a target with their auto attack, they generate rage. Similar situation, except we only have a 60% chance to do it. Personally, I'm not super crazy about this talent because it makes it a little bit more boring because it's not a guaranteed proc chance. But overall, this is mostly used in the single target build or the single target burst build. So it's definitely a very good talent. It's just not really my playstyle. But then lastly we have Demonic Appetite, which it causes Chaos Strike to have a 25% chance to spawn a lesser soul fragment, and when you consume that, it'll grant you 35 Fury. Also, these soul fragments will also heal you the way your normal soul fragments will do after you kill an enemy or something. So then next we have, at 102, this is kind of where you start making some choices. First you have Chaos Cleave, which causes Chaos Strike to hit all enemies for 10% additional damage. As it sounds, it's an AoE ability. Personally, I don't think it's super great. I do know a lot of people do pick this ability, but in my personal opinion, I'm not super crazy about it. Because when you use it, if you look at the damage meters, you're going to have your Chaos Strike ability, then you're going to have a second number, which would be Chaos Cleave. I just feel like it doesn't do a whole lot of damage. I'd rather go with one of the other two abilities instead, but it definitely is a good talent and it has its use. But next is First Blood, which First Blood reduces the Fury cost of Blade Dance by 20, which gives it a 15 Fury cost. And then it also increases its damage to 600,000. Well, for me, it's 600,000 against the first target struck. So basically, this turns Blade Dance into a single target ability as well. So you could use it single target or multi-target AoE, which this is the best choice for single target damage, as you might expect. It's also just a very good choice. I like to use this. I think I use this more often than not. And then the last ability, or the last talent in the 102 tier is Bloodlet, which causes Throw Glaive to do bleed damage to everyone it hits. This talent is actually really good if you have the legendary bracers, which I have, which those do, it causes your Throw Glaive to do 50% more damage for each target it hits. So it is a good ability, but most of the time you'll probably be picking First Blood or Chaos Cleave. Chaos Cleave is more AoE, First Blood is more single target, and then Bloodlet is kind of single target, but more of like cleave damage. Then next we have our survivability tier, which the first one is Netherwalk, which gives you 100% movement speed increase and you're immune to damage for 5 seconds, but you can't attack. You have Desperate Instincts, which causes your blur to reduce damage taken by an additional 15, which I believe that brings it up to 50%. And then you'll automatically trigger blur once you fall below 35% health. Personally, I've never used either of those two abilities. The only ability I've ever used in this tier is Soul Rending, which causes you to gain 70% leech while Metamorphosis is active. I love this talent. For me personally, if I pop Metamorphosis, I just don't die. Because you do so much damage in Metamorphosis and you get all that health back that you basically never die. Now in the 106 tier, we have Momentum, which causes Fell Rush and Vengeful Retreat to increase your damage done by 20% for 4 seconds. Again, very part of the movement heavy build. I don't like this talent. I almost never take it. A lot of people use it in the demonic build, which we're going to get to in a little bit. Personally, I don't like it, but it does have its use. 20% damage increase for 4 seconds is pretty good. And the next we have Fell Eruption, which a lot of people sleep on this ability. I actually really like Fell Eruption. It does some chaos damage to the target and stuns them for 2 seconds. And if you hit a target that's immune to stuns, for example a boss, it does double damage. So for me personally, it does 710,000 damage. If I use it on a boss, it does 1.5 million approximately. And then there's times where I would crit that. So it would do 710, double against a boss, so 1.5 million, and then if I crit, it does double again, and can do like 3 million damage for one button press, which has 10 Fury cost, and has a 30-second cooldown. That's not bad at all. I personally really like this ability. 90% of the time when I'm using it, it's like number 1 or number 2 on my damage meters. But then you have, so basically this is kind of a single target ability. It's, in my opinion, it's more of like a sustained single target damage ability. Whereas now we have Nemesis, which is more of a burst damage ability. More so for single target. I've used it in AoE, but it causes you to do 25% more damage to the target for 1 minute. And if the target dies while it has that buff active, you do 25% more damage to all targets of the same creature type. So, for example, humans, beasts, so on and so forth. Now at 108, this is my least favorite tier out of all the talents because none of them are super useful. They have their like niches, but you have Master of the Glaive, gives Throw Glaive 2 charges, it snares enemies by half. Okay. You have Unleashed Power, removes the fury cost of Chaos Nova and reduces its cooldown by 33%. Alright. And then you have Demon Reborn, which, invoking Metamorphosis, resets the cooldown of I-Beam, Chaos Nova, and Blur. All of these have their uses in certain builds, but overall, none of them are like super great. So now we get on to the last tier, which this is what affects what build you're going to be running, basically. The first choice we have is Chaos Blades. This is one of your major cooldowns. It's got a 2-minute cooldown, increases all damage done by 30%, which is actually a lot of damage. And while active, your auto attacks deal 150% increased damage and causes chaos damage. And now that chaos damage also will stack with your mastery. So this could be a very powerful ability. And then next we have Fel Barrage. Has a 1-minute cooldown. At your command, unleash Fel, inflicting 1.4 million chaos damage to your target and nearby enemies over 2 seconds. Your damaging abilities have a chance to reduce the cooldown of Fel Barrage by 5 seconds. So this was changed in 7.2.5. It is a very good ability still. As you might think, it's more for AoE. You could do a ton of damage with this ability in AoE if you have a lot of targets grouped together. So this is a very good ability, and that's more for the AoE build. And lastly, we have Demonic, which I-Beam causes you to enter demon form for 8 seconds after it finishes dealing damage. Basically, what this means is you use I-Beam, and then you have an 8-second Metamorphosis. And you get all the buffs and all the benefits of Metamorphosis, including Soul Rending. So the Demonic build has a lot of survivability, and that's what I run in PvP, but that's an entirely different subject right there. So that's basically the rundown of all the talents themselves, and now I'm going to get into the specific builds. Okay, so the first build that we're going to talk about is the one I'm currently using right now, which is the single target, and it's more of a single target burst build. What you want to do is you want to go with Fel Blade, and you go Demon Blades, although you can go Demonic Appetite, but it's more so Demon Blades. You go First Blood, and if you have the Legendary Bracers, you can run Bloodlet, but overall I think First Blood is the most, will give you the most DPS. And then the 104 is kind of up to you. Like I said, I normally go Soul Rending, but neither of these are going to affect your DPS unless you die. So, and then 106, you could pick any of them really. I go either Fel Eruption or Nemesis. Because I'm talking about the single target burst one right now, I'm going to go Nemesis. And then the 108 tier is pretty irrelevant for this build, in my opinion at least. I kind of just go Master of the Glaive because it's the best out of the 3 for this build. So Throw Glaive you're not really going to use a whole lot unless if you picked Bloodlet. If you didn't pick Bloodlet, then you're just going to basically just use Throw Glaive whenever you have nothing else to press. So, and then for single target burst we're going to go Chaos Blades. So now, what you want to do with this build, like a little bit of a rotation, I guess you could say, is you want to use Fel Blade on cooldown. You always want Fel Blade to be on cooldown, because see right there, when you use your Demon Blades or Demon's Bite, if you don't have Demon Blades selected, your auto attacks or Demon's Bite has a chance to reset the cooldown. So basically, you could keep using that a lot. And if it's off cooldown already, you're not going to obviously get the reset, so you want to make sure you're constantly using this. And then, so Fel Blade would pretty much be your top priority, I would say. And then after that is going to be Blade Dance, if you picked First Blood. If you pick First Blood, Blade Dance is going to be more Fury efficient than Chaos Strike, and it's probably going to do a little bit more damage, if not the same, but because it costs less Fury and also has a cooldown, whereas Chaos Strike doesn't, it's going to be Fel Blade, then Blade Dance, and then you're going to go with Chaos Strike whenever you can, like whenever you have the Fury for it, and then basically I just use Throw Glaive when I have nothing else to press. A lot of people talk about whether or not to use I-Beam in single target. I honestly think I don't really use I-Beam too much in single target. It's more so for AoE for me at least. And then Fury of the Illidari, even though it's more of an AoE ability. It does work in single target, so I still use it. And then you have your Nemesis and your Chaos Blades. So basically what a rotation would normally look like is you want to use Nemesis first, because Nemesis lasts for 1 minute. So I'd rather lose a second or two of Nemesis rather than Metamorphosis. So what I do is I Nemesis the target, then I Metamorphosis and I jump to them, and then after that I use Chaos Blades. So then that you'll just get your rotation going. After Chaos Blades, I think I normally use Fury of the Illidari, and then you do your abilities. Now it's also super important that when you're in Metamorphosis that you use Blade Dance, which will become Death Sweep. You want to use that on cooldown because that hits really hard. That hits really hard when you're in Metamorphosis. And then also keeping Fellblade off cooldown to keep your Fury generation up. And yeah, so I'm going to quickly show you what that's going to look like. So I'm going to pop Nemesis first, then Metamorphosis, Chaos Blades, Fury of the Illidari, and then I'm just going to go in, use Chaos Strike when I can, Fellblade when it comes up, making sure that I keep Death Sweep on cooldown. And then, like, if you could see that, when I had nothing to press, I hit Throw Glaive, because, yeah, there's nothing to press. I mean, it would be a little bit of a DPS loss if you just hit nothing there, so like, as you can see, I'm doing like almost 1.5 million DPS right now. So this has very high burst potential. And then, yeah, so that's basically the rotation for the single target burst build. Okay, so the next build we're going to talk about is the AoE build. This is just like a super heavy focused AoE build, which would be pretty good for Mythic Pluses if you have to just like burn down a lot of enemies really fast. So for that, what you're going to want to go with is either Fellblade or Fell Mastery. I would say Fell Mastery if you like a lot of the movement of a Demon Hunter. Otherwise, I would say go with Fellblade. The second tier, Demon Blades or Demonic Appetite. I would probably say for this build, go Demon Blades, And then you can go Chaos Cleave at 102, potentially Bloodlet if you have the bracers. But for the purpose of this video, I'm going to say let's go Chaos Cleave. 104 doesn't really affect your DPS. And then you could go Momentum if you picked Foul Mastery. If not, I would say go with Nemesis. And then, now for 108, if you picked Bloodlet, I would say go Master of the Glaive. Otherwise, Unleashed Power could be really good as well. And then lastly, you go Fell Barrage. So basically the rotation for this would be kind of very standard, just like the single target one almost, with a few variations. You want to make sure you're constantly using Fellblade. Don't let that be off cooldown. That should be on cooldown all the time. And then you want to use Fury of the Illidari whenever you can, if there's a decent amount of mobs. You want to use Fell Barrage as soon as you can as well, because I would say use Fell Barrage first, because then all of your abilities have a chance to reduce the cooldown. So if you jump into a trash pack and you hit like 4 or 5 mobs, or you hit like 4 or 5 abilities, then you Fell Barrage, you're potentially losing time where if you Fell Barraged first and then you hit 4 or 5 abilities, you could potentially reduce the cooldown by like 20-25 seconds. So I would say Fell Barrage first and then use your other abilities afterwards. So I'll give you a quick little look of what that would look like. I would say Fellblade in, and then Fell Barrage. Fellblade's off cooldown, so I'm going to use that. Fury of the Illidari, Chaos Nova, and then also I forgot to mention use I-Beam as well. I-Beam is a super good AoE ability. So yeah, then basically this would just be the kind of rotation you're doing. As you can see, I'm doing almost 2 million damage. So this is a super heavy AoE build. This is a lot of AoE damage. I think I used this build once on Scorpion before Fell Barrage got changed. I think I did like 3.5 million damage, like where all the ads were and stuff. It like lagged my game out. That's how much damage that did. So that's the AoE build. Pretty simple. I personally don't use that too much. I mostly use the Demonic build, which is the next build we're going to go over. Then if not that, I would use the single target burst build. Then if not, I would use this build right here. But Next build we're going to talk about is the demonic build. Okay, so the next build we're going to talk about is the demonic build. This is my favorite build just because I think it's the coolest, I think it's the most fun to play, and I personally love it. So talents for that are going to be Blind Fury, which increase the duration of I beam by half and cause you to generate 35 Fury every second. Basically, this just means that you're going to have full Fury by the time you finish your I beam. You want to use Demonic Appetite as well. And then First Blood. If you have the bracers, you could use Bloodlet. I would recommend First Blood. 104 is up to you. You can go Nemesis for Burst if you want a little bit more burst. Or you can go Fell Eruption if you want a little bit more single target. And now for 108, you can go Unleashed Power or Demon Reborn. I personally go Unleashed Power because we have an ability through our artifact where, which one is it? This one. When Chaos Nova stuns a target, has a 30% chance to generate a lesser soul fragment. And then also, we have an ability right here. When you consume a soul fragment, the remaining cooldown of I-Beam and Chaos Nova is reduced by 5 seconds. So what you could do with this talent setup is, you can use I-Beam. You'll go demonic. Basically, you'll activate Metamorphosis for 8 seconds. You could use up the 8 seconds, and then Chaos Nova, generate a whole bunch of soul fragments, absorb them all, and then that could potentially reset the cooldown of I-Beam, and then you could just go right back into it. So this kind of lets you keep a bit more uptime on on your demonic ability. The only time it doesn't really help too much in single target though. So I go with this build normally because this gives me a good balance of single target and AoE abilities. So Demon Reborn would also be pretty good because what you could do is you could I-Beam to activate your demonic. Then you can Metamorphosis, which will give you the 30 seconds on top of your demonic. Yeah, on top of your demonic. Then that'll reset I-Beam and you can use it again, which will give you another 8 seconds. Because if you use I-Beam, if you have demonic and you use I-Beam while in Metamorphosis, it basically just increases the duration by 8 seconds. And then also, now with Demonic Appetite, what you can do is, you could be spamming Demon's Bite. And I want to see if I can get some soul fragments to spawn here. Let's see, already going to spawn? Nope, of course, none of them are going to spawn. I still haven't spawned a soul fragment, so that's where you kind of play into the RNG of Demonic Appetite. But basically, let's just say if I spawned a soul fragment, let's say it's over here, what you could just do is, if you have the strafing keys assigned to your bar, you could just move back and forth like that really quickly, and any slight movement will suck the soul fragment up into you, and then it'll reduce the cooldown of I-Beam, Chaos Nova, give you the Fury, all that. So you don't have to actually move over to it. Let's say it's over here. You could be standing attacking the boss and just move slightly and you'll absorb it. So I don't know why I'm not able to spawn any right now, so I can't actually show that. But basically that's how you would use Demonic Appetite to your advantage. So now, the priority system for this is a little bit different. You're still going to want to use First Blood whenever you can, but there's a little bit of an asterisk there. Because when you go into Metamorphosis, or when you proc Demonic, Blade Dance turns into Death Sweep. You want to be using Death Sweep while in Demonic. If you use it right when you proc Demonic, you could probably get 2 of them off before it wears off. And that's what will give you the most damage, more so than using Chaos Strike, or at least in my opinion. So if you have to wait on Blade Dance by like 1 or 2 seconds so you can use it in Demonic, I would say do that. I would say that's more of a DPS increase. If that's not 100% accurate, somebody could let me know and I'll correct that, but that's what I've discovered. So now the rotation for the single target when you're using Demonic is pretty much the same as the burst build. There's only a few variations. One of them would be if you pick Demon Reborn. If you pick Demon Reborn, I would say run in, attack, and use I-Beam as soon as you can, which will put you in Metamorphosis. And then I would say use Death Sweep, and then your Nemesis, and then pop Metamorphosis, because then that would reset your I-Beam, and then you can use I-Beam again. If you didn't pick Demon Reborn, I would say right off the bat go Nemesis, Nemesis, then Metamorphosis, and then use your Death Sweep whenever you can, use Annihilation whenever you can. And then you want to use I-Beam when you can, because that'll give you an extra 8 seconds on your Metamorphosis. And then for AoE, the rotation's pretty much the same as all the other builds. The Demon Hunter has a pretty easy, like, trash rotation. So, since right now I'm going with Unleashed Power, like I said, it's more for AoE, but since I'm going with that right now, I'm going to show you what the rotation would look like. So I'm going to pop Nemesis, then Metamorphosis. I'm going to pop Fury of the Illidari, and then I'm going to use Blade Dance, use I-Beam when I can, and then basically you just spam Chaos Strike, and then use Blade Dance whenever you can. So this is what it's going to look like. I'll reset my damage meter so you can see how much I actually do. And then here we go. Okay, so as you could see, I didn't peak as high as I did in the pure single target build, but one thing I've kind of noticed, I feel, is that with the single target build, you'll do a lot of damage right off the bat, but then once Metamorphosis fades, you'll start to just come down a lot more. I feel like with this demonic build, you kind of stay like at one point, and it's a little bit more consistent, and it's more sustained. So that's personally why I use this. Okay, so that was my Havoc Demon Hunter PvE guide for patch 7.2.5. I hope it helped you guys. Leave any questions you have or anything I might have said that wasn't 100% accurate. Leave all that in the comments and I'll answer everybody. I'll answer your questions. If I made a mistake on something, let me know and I can edit the video, I can correct it. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope that helped. Thank you guys for watching and I'll see you guys in the next one.